friends, thank you for joining on to the chapter 3 of Tourism Talk. And today we are discussing Tourism version 2.0. So it gives me immense pleasure and honor to introduce you all to the three panelists. This is the first session today. Totally, this is my 15th webinar and the first webinar wherein I've got multi cast, like I can say one or more panelists all together. And it gives me a lot of joy and pleasure to introduce you all to them. So to start with, we have Mr. Laxmikant Patil, sir, a prominent travel professional. He carries along 20 plus years of experience in travel industry, mainly into domestic domain, be it leisure or MICE, sales or operations, contracting or products. He has done it all. He looks after the domestic division of SOTC travel in the capacity of general manager. Lakshmi sir, thank you very much for being here and accepting the invitation, sir. Thank you really very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanket.
Hi. Next, we have Mr. Nasir Merchant, a travel enthusiast at heart and an entrepreneur by mind. He carries along 10 plus years of experience, mainly into MICE. He specializes in business development and new client acquisition. He currently heads the key account management at ICOMI Travel Services. Nasir bhai, thank you very much for being here.
Completely. Pleasure is all mine, Sanket. Thanks, and I hope we have a good session, all of us.
Yes. And the third panelist today, we have Mr. Anish Pednekar, a MICE specialist. He carries along 10 plus years of experience in travel industry and has ventured out as an entrepreneur a couple of years back. He heads DestinationNXT in the capacity of a CEO and serving clients with MICE requirements. Thank you, Anish ji, for being here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So, friends, this was a professional introduction. Personally, I have had a privilege to work with all these three gentlemen here on ground as well as in the office. And it is really a special moment for me also to have these three people as the panelists on one of the talk show. So let's start with our agenda today. So how it is going to be, we have got 5 subtopics of the main topic. Everyone will be giving their inputs on that. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A for 10-15 minutes. And accordingly, we wrap up the session. So that is how the session is going to be today. So friends, yes, travel has changed. And we all understand that change is the only constant. So with this change, we all need to change and we all need to move on. So to start with, the first one is the new normal for tourism. Like after 9/11, after 2008-2009 recession, tourism has changed over the years and it has come out of the ages. But now, what is the new normal going to be post COVID-19? So to start with, Nasir sir, let's start with the first topic with you. So your insights on new normal for tourism.
Right. Sanket, you actually, started off by saying the right thing. Change is the only constant. And I completely, I'm with that theory. But the only thing that is different from change is the only constant, and the cliche, behind it is the fact that this is too much of change too fast for all of us. None of us expected this probably at the end of the last quarter of the calendar year, or probably the first quarter of this calendar year. But we just, kind of face this massive change, and this massive change has happened massively fast. Obviously, when you ask me my perspective towards a new normal, it is my individual perspective at the end of it. It's not something that is written in thumb rules or, written somewhere or the other. And I'm quite sure no one can accurately predict this, to be very honest to you, or to be very honest to everyone. It is my perspective, my thought theory, and my thinking process behind it. So I'm going to go on a macro level, to be very honest. I'm not going to go into the micro level of things of how MICE or how normal tours will happen. Airports will be, you have to reach 4 hours prior to airport and things. I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm going to look at the macro level theory on the face of it. So, a few points that, kind of come to my mind when it comes to the new normal is, number one is, unfortunately, being a MICE specialist and being in the MICE industry for so long, I'm really, kind of downtrodden to think that MICE has kind of slid into the coma zone, you know. So that's one reality that all MICE professionals probably on this talk, on this panel who are there, will have to agree to, that we have kind of slid into coma at the moment. Leisure will open again, you know, leisure travel will open, but not that quickly. That is one normal. Problem is the uncertainty and the unknownness of fear. There's a lot of fear amongst all of us, a lot of fear amongst the end customers who are our travel partners at the end of it. There's a lot of suspicion whether, you know, things will go on the way they need to go on. You know, already you've seen mega events are not taking place. The Tokyo Olympics are not taking place. The Euro 2020 is not taking place. Expo 2020, ITB Berlin, when it comes to our domain, these are all mega events which are not taking place right now. And that, unfortunately, is the new normal that we have to kind of live with. You know, probably things like virtual reality, webinars, Zoom, what you're doing right now, you know, online awards will be the way things will function, you know, going ahead. Group travel, which is a larger part of the middle class, upper middle class, the way they travel, you know, with prominent companies taking people in group travel. I see that shrinking a lot too. I don't see too much of it happening, not too much of it going the way it will go right now at this particular moment. School trips, parents will be wary of sending their school children for school trips at the moment. We did a lot of school trips when we were back in SOTC and those days, education seminars, education trips, but I don't see that happening, you know, because as a parent today, also I will be quite wary of sending my child anywhere abroad with any kind of uncertainty, you know. So major changes, religious tourism, a major thing. Ramzan is on for the Mohammedans now. I also hear Hajj is not going to take place this year, you know, which is one of the biggest events of the year. So religious tourism is going to go for a massive toss. Destination weddings. So the future obviously looks a little bleak, but as they all say, you know, there's no darkness throughout. There will be some ray of hope at the end of the tunnel. And I'm quite sure things will open up. The tech savviness and other things will count at the end of it. And we'll have to live and play by the minute rather than, you know, predicting or having a forecast of a lot of things. So that's my thing of new normal. This is how it's going to be. And this is how we all will have to live with it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I would now love to go to Laxmikant, sir.
So good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to participate on this forum. So let me start with a disclaimer saying that whatever I am going to speak is my individual opinion, and obviously my company may have some different view or perspective on the topics that have been put forth. So coming back to the topic, which is led by Sanket. So it's about what will be the new normal post current ongoing ambiguity scenario. So I think first of all, I would divide these changes into two things. First of all is the economy related changes, because anyway our business largely relies on the economic status of the country and of the people as well. So obviously we all know that people are expecting few kind of dent on their pockets, like in terms of there could be a possible job cuts, salary cuts, lower demand, obviously because of people will have lesser disposable income. There will be a tendency of saving money and things like that. Even the government employees and the LTC kind of crowd, on which there is a large dependency on of the smaller players. Even the government is likely to delay the salaries and things like that. So obviously, all of these economic things will have a dent on these activities. But coming back to the COVID related changes, particularly with related to the disease, obviously there will be a hesitance on everybody's mind pertaining to their own safety, their own family's safety. So people, if at all, I mean, first of all, I will talk in two phases. First of all, while we are talking, there is a pandemic going on, and soon we have these green zones and state like Goa opening for the tourists. If we have many more destinations opened for tourists, and assuming there are no restrictions on people traveling from one state to other state and one country to other country. So people will probably start with domestic travel. That's what everybody's thinks, and I do agree to a large extent, because obviously when you're in India, you're in your own country, so you can handle any kind of issues if at all you encounter. So obviously, domestic will be the first thing to open up, and in that also we'll have to look into smaller pockets of what all things will open. So obviously, something that we will be looking forward is the hygiene factor. What all initiatives are being taken to the hotel that I am going to go, to the vehicle that I am going to use? Can I avoid getting into crowded places like railway stations and airports? Or if at all I have to go to these places, then what should be the precaution that I need to take? At the same time, what needs to be the precaution these authorities, like for example railways and the airport authorities, they need to take? So all of these will be into consideration, the hygiene factor by and large. Okay, so everything that we intend to do in this space, holiday space, we'll have to give a reassurance to people that okay, we have taken due care of all of this. Your safety, the hygiene, all of these things have been taken due care, and probably we'll have to talk more on this. So your product pitch will start later, and you have to give the pitch of hygiene and the safety to begin with. So I think that will be the change in your communication to the customer.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are. I mean, there are going to be the smaller products from a two-nighter or maybe a one-nighter experience, or maybe a day trip to some place. Probably that's how people are going to start some place and then coming back to their own home for a comfortable night's sleep. Going from then it will go eventually to a two-nighter weekend kind of travel, and then a 4-5 nighter of domestic holiday, and eventually people will think of going to international locations. That's what I feel. Just people who start straight away with some international holiday, and so I think already with hygiene, I think the other mantra that we have to keep in mind is the flexibility, because people will have doubt on various things. If I pay money to someone, will I get my money back if I have to cancel because of any? So how much flexibility we will offer? Being people in travel industry, we don't own any of these services, so we'll have to be largely dependent on our suppliers. So the suppliers who offer you those kind of flexibilities, it will be easier to get them, so that you can pass on this flexibility to your customer. So I think hygiene and flexibility is something that I would suggest that in fact thing to look at.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you really very much. Now I will come to Anish, sir. So your insight on the new normal for tourism.
Okay, I'm gonna go into the ground reality of it. First thing first, for the new normal to begin, we need to gain the confidence of the end traveler to coax him to come out of his house, to step out of his house. Frankly, for that we are all our stakeholders, which is airline, hotels, even the destinations, need to take tangible measures so that we gain the end travelers' confidence. Now, these measures is what will is is what will change the industry as we know it. When the terrorist attacks happen, whether it's 9/11 or whether it's 26/11, it's changed the security infrastructure of airports and hotels in the world completely. We never ever imagined that we had to go through metal detector every time we had to go and enter a 5-star hotel. We never thought of it 2 decades ago, but now it's a common thing. Same thing is going to happen with us. Airports and hotels like Marriott and Hilton's of the world have already started implementing technology like electrostatic sprayers with hospital-grade disinfectants. This is a reality already there in select hotels, wherein they are serving, wherein they are in-house doctors from nearby hospitals. Now, with airlines, it's going to be a different scenario because still the government has to come out with regulations, but definitely maintaining social distancing on airlines is going to be a question mark. Okay. Of course, when I'm talking about talking about airline, eventually we will gonna travel for sure, because the entire industry is gonna come back in phases. It'll come back first, starting with the corporate travel, because people have to travel for necessary stuff. For example, merchant navy, my brother included, he'll be taking the first flight to Ghana because he works on a oil rig. That has to be, the oil production has to continue. So necessary travel will happen. With that, the confidence, with some expendable money, the cycle of leisure will start. Leisure will include FITs initially, which may start with even a road trip from Bombay to Pune or Bombay to Mahabaleshwar. That's how we'll begin. Coming back, then moving on interstate, then moving on. This is, I'm talking about a between time span between next 6 months or next year, or at least a couple of quarters, wherein we will have a full flow of travel happening. So when we come down to the airline once again, the social distancing on airline may not be possible as such, because even if you leave a middle seat empty, as has been recommended by few, it's only a gap of 17 inches. So at some level, we'll have to take that into consideration every time we get on a flight. I'm sure at some point in the future, this is all new to us right now, but at some point in the future, there's going to be a new normal. That is the topic at hand. We, unless there is a immediate vaccine which is created, we won't have any travel happening for sure for the next 2 or 3 months. But eventually, people will step out of the house for one reason or another. That's evident with our past handling of crisis and all. Along with that, we'll also have this onset of certification, just like we have TripAdvisor right now. The destinations will have certain certifications for hotels and restaurants, wherein it gives an additional blanket of safety for, so to say, for the consumers to go and eat there. For example, Singapore has already established SG Clean as the certification for places like hotels and attractions, which are earned. The certification is earned only after you complete certain hygiene factors, certain practices are made, put into effect. So that potentially gives a consumer peace of mind. Of course, the another thing which will be is that maybe in the short term, we won't have LDCs or long distance coaches. We may have, even in domestic travel, I'm saying, we may have to transport our people in small groups. If I'm talking from my perspective, so maybe 6 months down the line, or whenever it starts, we'll have to start with maybe Innovas or SUVs or tempo travelers, something like that, 17-seater. But coaches may not be normal. So that is something that we'll have to work out with our logistical partners and all. That's just something in a nutshell for you guys on the new normal. Of course, the thing will be, we'll have to spend a lot of time at an airports or a hotel check-in, because the turnaround time for an airline to get aircraft to get disinfected and then made available for the next batch of passengers is going to take a hell lot of time. Also, your disinfection, plus you may have to submit something similar to yellow certificate vaccine. You may have to submit a health certificate to even if you're traveling domestically, because states like Sikkim and all are not even open to domestic travelers at the moment, or they have given a deadline for that as well. So that may be a new normal as well. But given time, I think so it will be all a part of our routine. That is what I would say.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Anish, for your inputs on subtopic 1. Talking of mice, the second subtopic, mice, a distant reality. So we all are from mice, and maximum participants here also all from mice. So let's take up the topic called mice, a distant reality. I will start with Lakshmi sir.
Right. So obviously, mice in this scenario looks slightly difficult, because you're planning to take a group, and you're not allowed to be in a group. So it will be slightly difficult to, what will be the fate of my group. So everybody will think around this. So I would have two perspectives to this. I mean, if assuming that this virus is there with us for some time, and if we have to still operate, then I think we have to, obviously there will be, bigger impact on your pricing, because your airfares, you will have limited number of flights operating. You will have, they're talking about keeping the middle seat empty. I don't know how much practically it is going to happen, because airlines are going to adopt those kind of policies. But all of the, even if you are traveling in a coaches and if you have to keep one seat empty or whatever, I mean, only one seat occupied in a row. So I think all of this is going to having some kind of a rather bigger impact on the pricing of the tours. So if at all that happens, as it is, people, corporates are going to work on a very stringent budget as far as their MICE travel is concerned. So maybe the employee conferences looks very difficult, because nowadays everybody will be preferred to have these offsites and meetings over video conferencing like what we are communicating. But the incentive travel, I think that has to be there, because that's what something many corporates would have committed, or they'll have to find out ways how do we do that. So I think in that case, probably in incentive travel, there is something called voucher business. I mean, I am sure all people operating in this space would know that, because maybe that's an idea wherein you pitch it for a corporate group, but you don't make them travel together. You kind of make it a FID travel. So maybe you can offer them a single destination, or you can give them a choice of going to a destination which is closer to them or comfortable to them, and even the date of travel, etc., can be very flexible. So probably that is one everybody is going to look at as far as incentive travel is concerned. Uh, at the same time, but if let me also state that the international MICE conferences or whatever MICE events, they may get shifted to a domestic locations again for the very same reason the first topic. Yeah, so that is maybe a 3-star or a 4-star holiday experience of can get into a 5-star luxury resort in India and a branded property where, you know, we are talking about chains like Marriott, etc., who take utmost care of all these things, and they are able to give that kind of confidence to the corporate customer, saying that we are able to take care of your customers. Will I mean, and being a brand itself, I think it gives a lot of assurance to the travelers as well that things would be taken care. But by and large, I feel till the time this virus is going to be around, the MICE guys will have very tough job to make the customer travel, and that's a personal opinion.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So, Nasir sir, coming to you, what do you feel about MICE, a distant reality?
All right. So I think Laxmikant ji obviously, has kind of put a nail in the coffin. I know it's his personal opinions, but yeah, what he's saying is, I take it from there, to be very honest. And let me put it just, as bluntly and straightforward. What he said is completely right. Till the time there's no vaccine, MICE won't happen. And why it won't happen? It's simple. It's in the word itself. MICE, at the end of it, is meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions. We all know it. We've learned it in our basics. And it is the basic, it's the main antonym of social distancing, which is the key parameter for COVID right now. So I don't see it, to be very honest. It is a distant reality. The topic is very well thought of, and we've taken it. So let's start it from the start. Even if it has to happen, I don't know how many clients are there on this call, on this webinar right now, but each of you tell me, whenever we have this open session, which client today will take the onus of signing a contract of sending 500 people abroad? If I was a client, I wouldn't do that for sure. Not to put one person at risk, 2% at risk, forget 500 people. I'll never send 500 people at the end of it for an incentive travel or any kind of group movement, which basically is the key parameter of MICE. Why? Obviously, MICE, unfortunately, it is a segregation of people. It's a group of people. There are obviously a lot of ways to look at it. Kind of, domestically, yes, it can start off earlier. And I think that's what we all believe in at the moment. A lot of domestic movements can start in, but international movement, I think I'll be quite optimistic if I'm saying it will start post 12 to 15 months, not before that for sure, what it looks like. Domestic movement, yes, it can start off as early in the next 6 months, 7 months, depending on how We try and manage things. What will be the new normal when it comes to mice? Obviously, 5-star nowadays, we take a lot of people, we want to give our clients the best of best. We take them to 5-star hotels, have twin sharing, have a lot of things. Can be massive changes where a client says, because of the social distancing norms and everything else, where a client says, okay, I'm not ready to go for a 5-star. I want to go for a 4-star, but I want to keep everyone in single occupancy. So those can be new things. Restaurants at the end of it. Today we take in people to restaurants, probably restaurants starting from 40 people, 50 people to even larger restaurants of 150, 180, 200 people. Now, are you really going to touch the utensils which 100 other people have touched even if a vaccine starts? Because, there's a suspicion of fear over me. I wouldn't do that. So I also feel there will be things like allowances that will start coming in. A lot of allowances when it comes to mice at the end of it, allowances for meals and things of that sort. Give people free and easy time to do what they want, rather than bind them by taking them to a restaurant where too many more people have come in. So it's not going to be easy on a lot of parameters, right? From, if the whole mandate by airlines of, social distancing within the airlines of the middle seat coming in, that can actually raise the ticket prices up by 1.5x. Now, at the end of it, are the corporates going to spend that money on mice? If not this year, next year? Yes, they will spend money. But, there will be a lot of restrictions. There will be a lot of things that we all will need to, adhere to or come close to, or, make sure that we can kind of deliver the way we have been delivering and, kind of adapt to the new changes. At the end of it, it's all about, I also realized one very important thing in this entire process, and specifically in mice, we all have the capability of doing mice. That's why we all are here where we are. But do we have the capability? Do we have the ability to cope with this change? And if we have the capability to adapt to this change, that will differentiate us between men and boys. So mice will be a distant reality to quite an extent, and I strongly feel so. But again, once it opens up, it's going to be a super boom time for all of us. Be ready to be busy then.
Absolutely. We all hope for that, to be busy as soon as possible. Coming to Anish, Anish ji, what's your take on mice being a distant reality?
By distant, if you mean a couple of quarters, yeah, it's gonna definitely take a couple of quarters. Maybe mid next year we'll have a start, I guess. But the most important thing is that let's wind the clock a bit. Like, why do people in mice especially? Why do people travel? It's when industries do well. It's when staff does well. When there's dealer or channel partner does well. That is the time they get rewarded with the incentive of travel. So until the time the industry is back on its feet, we're gonna have to be patient and survive this phase. Once the industry is back, once it's churning, then our travel the wheels of the travel industry will start churning. Uh, IATA did a survey recently that published in its report. Like, they asked frequent travelers, like, when would you be comfortable to travel? And a large proportion, a little less than half, consider themselves likely to resume air travel within 1 to 2 months. Now, uh, of course, this is only 50% saying about 50% saying that they maybe in 1 2 months. But even that, keeping that in mind, maybe once free individual travelers or regional travelers start, that is the time when the market will get confidence. That is the time when the corporates will get confidence to send out people. Like Nasser mentioned right now, no corporate will take the liability of infecting 500 of its sales or channel partners or any stakeholders in their company. That's the reason why they wouldn't want to travel. That's why Istanbul wasn't considered a destination a couple of years ago because of the attack near the Blue Mosque. But last year, it was a turnaround. Tsunami had the same effect, but a couple of years down the line, everything was back to normal. Malaysian was considered a taboo airline in 2014, I think so. And then a couple of years later, everything is back to normal. So I would stress on the fact that people need to be patient, and things will get back to normal. Let it get started. Let this pandemic get over. Okay. Unless and until there's a phase 2 of this pandemic or round 2 or round 3 or whatever that is, which are the rumors going around in China right now, I think so things are gonna get back. Right now, what is happening is that we don't have a time frame which the government can put. Yes, by this time we will be able to, you know, open up these barriers. Right now, the constraints are less natural and more uh, governmental because of our own safety. So once that happens, once the industry starts moving on, people are gonna forget this. That's my opinion, of course.
Okay.
And then life will be back to normal. Give it a couple of quarters, guys.
Yeah. So just to sum up this, I can say that every day and every week, it just seems like things are changing and it's really dynamic. It's hard for all of us to say right now when we think people will be ready to travel. But guys, travel will come back. And as we all understand that tourism recovery typically begins locally. So let's start with our third subtopic for the day. Domestic travel, will it be the in thing for mice and leisure? And I would like to start this with Laxmikant sir.
Okay, so I think as far as as made the statement that if when the travel starts, I think by and large, it will be domestic first, because I just said that people would like to try with something which is also their home, wherein they can just do a day trip kind of thing, or maybe an overnight kind of thing. To getting into once they are getting slight more confidence, they think maybe a 3-4 night kind of thing, because let's also understand that many of the salaried people have exhausted with their leaves or whatever, and many of the businessmen also have enjoyed too much of lockdown, so availability of time is also going to be very critical. So about, I mean, let's park the COVID and the infection for some time. So all of these things will also force people to have a check on the spend. But yes, let me also make very clear that people are bored with the monotony. Everybody in the home are more or less sick seeing each other within the family also. So there is a demand wherein either wife is saying that I need a break now. Obviously, the housewives in the house, they have not got any break, because maybe the husbands can be helping them to the best possible extent, but they're working. Many of the cities don't have maids coming to their houses to work and things like that, so obviously they need a break. So people who think it will be difficult to begin with the travel, let me tell you, there will be a travel only thing. Probably what will come up in the travel category might change, because by and large, typically in an organized format, group tours or combined family trips were the largest things in demand. That will change now. People would want to travel in a solo family, and that too, my personal opinion is that people will come with some weird ideas of holidays. For example, if I have to go on a holiday, I will think of maybe going to some kind of farm stay, yeah, wherein I pitch my own tent, yeah, I pluck the vegetables from a farm, I cook along with the locals there, or maybe get them to cook the vegetables for myself, and do something kind of nature based activity. Okay, that's my probably the idea of doing holiday. The other have completely other thing in mind. They will think of going to a 5-star resort, nearby resort, a branded one, to get an assurance again, the safety norm of it, and want to just relax, unwind, do nothing probably, and just get rid of this monotony. So few people may want to explore those kind of ideas also. So and lastly, pilgrimage, because very soon, once we have the temples opening up, people would, whoever are alive and sound, they would want to offer regards to the god, saying thank you, and asking for blessings. So I think pilgrimage that will click in, is my understanding. Again, it will be all in FIT kind of format. It will be on individual families will learn this. Lastly, the senior citizens, because again, these are the people whom I think everybody is taking due care and not allowing them to go out and things like that. So once we hear that, okay, the mobility is being restored, even the senior citizens will have to have something ready for them also. Again, the format has to be wherein some give them assurance that all the safety norms are being checked and there is someone to take care. Even senior citizens and ladies special groups will want to travel. The friends, the housewives, clubs, the party clubs, all these are going to get active very soon, I'm telling you. Like the college going students, they would want to get along with their buddies to do some kind of trekking or activity. All is going to start. I think it is going to be, as I said, the talks which we used to hear very very remotely. Now those are going to take the leading place, and the usual holidays will take that's what I think. Eventually, maybe once we have things normal and settled, maybe by then you never know, the nature holidays, eco tourism and adventure would be then in the lead seat, and your typical destinations like stations etc. They may be sitting at the back. That's what I feel.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, coming to Anish, sir, Anish bhai, your insight on the domestic travel.
Obviously, Mr. Patil is the boss over here. He is the guru of domestic travel. But yeah, absolutely. Has got India has got the biggest potential for domestic tourism because of its numbers. As simple as that. Uh, yesterday I was looking at the interview. Oh, sorry, it was not an interview. It was like a grilling session of the New Zealand tourism minister by by one of its committee members. And his simple solution was that, oh, I'm opening up domestic travel for New Zealanders, so I'm sure everything will be back to normal. It'll save a lot of job for tourism guys. But then the reality is that in New Zealand the population is so less that it only accounts to about less than 20% of the actual revenue earned by tour operators or whatsoever. We have that advantage which we are not even utilizing. I mean, that's the whole point of the government's initiative of self-reliance, which was initiated yesterday, to focus on being self-reliant. So we always have the potential traveler in tier 2 cities, metros. We have got new middle class, new higher middle class being generated on a annual basis till the time this COVID thing happens. So there's always disposable income somewhere uh, in Indian pockets, which we haven't tapped into as yet. Which all we need to do is keep the infrastructure, get the infrastructure right, and Indians will always there to queue up and overutilize it. So keep in mind, IMF has said India and China would be the only two major economies who would register growth in the coming financial years, where the rest of the world will be contracting due to recession. So we will have some disposable income at hand. We need to focus over there for sure. And all the ideas which Mr. Patil just mentioned will have to be utilized for sure by guys like us as solutions to our corporates or our potential clientele.
Absolutely, Anish bhai. Thank you very much. And I would also like to add to this, saying that looking at the address of Mr. PM yesterday, I also believe that Ministry of Tourism India will take some really good steps to promote Incredible India and domestic travel, be it domestic travel or inbound, both. So now, Nasir sir, your take on the domestic travel.
Perfect. So I think the topic it says, domestic travel, whether it's an in thing or not, it is completely the in thing at the moment. To be very honest, it will be the in thing. Like, remove the lockdown, I'll be the first person to go from here to Lonavala, to be very honest. So in case any of you guys out here having entrepreneurial spirit within you guys out here, I'm very sure, and if you have obviously cash reserves at the end of it, invest in something like a Saffron Stays, invest in something like, villas and things of that sort, because those are going to be the things that we all will start with. I'm so bored seeing these four corners of my room, now, at all points of time, seeing the four corners, or probably looking out of the window and looking at a concrete jungle right there. I want to move out. I want to go out, because I'm a travel enthusiast, but I think my sentiments are echoed by a lot more people. They all want to move. And obviously, I'm not going to be boarding any flight for sure. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my car and zip through a location which is close by, right? And anything which is close by is domestic for me. So domestic will be the in thing, whatever happens. For Mumbaiites at the end of it, places like Karjat, Mathiran, Lonavala, Panjgini, Mahabaleshwar, Malshej, Igatpuri, Nasik are all places that will, be top-notch choices right now. Completely, there's no doubt about it. Also, why people will travel domestically right now, before moving to international, is obviously no visa hassles. As Anish, I think in his last point, very rightly or correctly said, there will be medical tests that will be happening. I'm not saying it won't happen for domestic places also, but I don't want to go through the hassle of, that's why, one of the places I've gone to is Kenya or Uganda, basically, getting a yellow fever shot. I don't want to get any of those kind of things, a medical test fast and things of that sort. I'm more happy going to a place which is easier to go to without any intricacies or nuances. Domestic travel, what else will happen? No heavy medical test. And I think to start off with, again, as I said, driving places where I can drive down to will be the places that will be a bigger hit than actually going by flights. So no doubt about it, it will be purely as, again, I'm again repeating what it probably, because the two guys before me have already said most of the points and covered most of the points, is what Laxmikant ji rightly said, it's going to be FIT or leisure that's going to start. Again, domestically, MICE will take a little bit more time compared to the FIT and leisure. But I think in these times, any travel is good travel, and any travel is good for the industry. I also see Sanket obviously raised a very valid point, and I also see the government, our Prime Minister, beloved Prime Minister, yesterday has said a lot of things, and I'm quite sure there will be certain incentive packages given. I've heard it in a few places. I'm not sure how far it's true. I don't have any trustworthy document to kind of say, but there are things. There are groups of 400, 500 people with a good composition of people who are coming from abroad. There will be a good amount of money that will be given to these groups. Incentive, I'm saying, cashback or something of that sort, and that's the best way to promote local tourism. And that's the way to go ahead, and that's the way to zoom ahead of all the other economies. And that's what we want, that we want India to actually win and come out of this better than anyone else.
Absolutely, Nasir bhai. Thank you very much. So, friends, now we are left with two more topics. Gentlemen, the next topic is something which participants who are waiting to hear for, because on this on this webinar today, we have got so many freshers or travel professional graduates or pursuing students who want to understand the topic called travel and tourism management. Is it a boon or a bane for students pursuing as well as the freshers? So to start this with, I would like to start with Anish ji. Anish ji, your take on this about the tourism and travel management. Is it a boon or a bane for students pursuing and the freshers out there looking at the current market scenario?
Okay, I think so. I addressed this a bit in my recent blog. It's always going to be a boon in the long term, unless you're really, really myopic. Then yes, then you may consider it a curse or whatever. I need to get out. I got calls from my peers in the industry who were like, "Arey, I'm done with this industry. I need to move out and all." But keep in mind, like, travel industry has always been buoyant. Okay, it has survived wars, recessions, airline accidents, 26/11, 9/11, you name it. The travel industry has bounced back. Okay, people in our generation especially lack the patience, I guess, because we have only tasted success in the recent past, or we have witnessed others tasting success in the recent past. That's the right way to put it, I would say. The industry has always been there, and it's always been there. Yes, this is going to be a gap year for us, sort of, but it's going to come back. There'll always be opportunity for young talent with people skills, regardless of the person's background. Your qualification expertise may be outdated in other industries, but your people skills and your smile will never be outdated in the tourism industry. Let's just keep that in mind. Okay. Be positive, and more importantly, be patient. Uh, I know exactly how you guys are feeling. If anybody is there on the today's webinar who is a student, I have been there. Like I did 3 years of hotel, and then I didn't plan to do my MBA for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, I found out, oh, I'm in the passing out in the year of double dip. It was 2011-12. Uh, so people were not hiring, especially with skill set of mine. Oh, you only have got operations. Sorry, we cannot give you a sales job, or we cannot give you a job as per the salary which you expect. I had to take a cut back then. Okay, I had to get started somewhere. Took the first possible sales job in hotel, which I got. Eventually moved on to travel, and today I'm giving you a bit of whatever I've learned in the past decade and a half or so. So I know exactly how you guys feel. It may feel a bit desperate. You may have EMIs, you may have student loans and all. Relax. Things will fall in place. That's all I have to say. Okay. And the reality and the inconvenient truth is that, which is a boon for you guys especially, uh, large organizations in travel and tourism will replace everybody in order to, apart from a few key positions, they'll replace everybody to save on their manpower cost, and they'll replace them with freshers like you. So I will end on that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anish, for that. So, coming to Laxmikant, sir. So, your take for the travel and tourism management students or the grads.
Okay, for the freshers and students who are aspiring their careers in this, charming field, I would say it is still charming.
Yeah.
If at all there is any ambiguity in your mind as to, am I doing the right thing, or is this track right for me? Let me tell you, the ambiguity pertaining to job, salaries, the career is there in almost all the fields, except maybe the medical field. And medical field has other challenges that we all know, the risks associated with it. So point is, I am so from that, I like to give an example. If you dig a well in your farm, choose which season? You choose summer season. The peakiest of the summer is the right season for digging a well, or if you have to take a bore well in your farm. Why so? Because that is the lowest level of the groundwater level would be the lowest during that time. What it means is that once you have a water at that particular peakiest of the summer, then you are going to have water throughout your all other seasons, right? So similarly, if now you pass out and manage to get a job for yourself, obviously you are going to beat so many of the aspirants, because there are many people standing in queue. And at the same, as Anish I completely agree with him that okay, it's time for a replacement also for many companies, wherein they look at replacing the expensive resources versus fresh resources. And the management, senior management, expect you to come up with innovative ideas. Yeah, something we travel professionals sitting in our chair for almost whatever 15-20 years we are sitting here, and probably our thinking is going very linear. We are not able to think out of box. We expect you to bring those ideas. We also expect you to think as to what's going to what is happening in other industries, or what is going to being spoken about. Also, you guys are more tech savvy than many of us. Especially, I should I am not that tech savvy person. So you all know what's going to what is trending on Instagram, what is people are like to showcase on their Facebooks and things like that. So you probably have the pulse of all this new generation. So I think everybody, all the main, why you just even after some teachers startup, they would want people who will come with something unique ideas. We never heard about this Airbnb kind of concept maybe 10 years back or 5 years back. We never heard about this kind of thing. And look at the scale up these companies are able to manage in this tough time. So I think there is going to be future. I completely agree with Anish, and everybody will say that maybe it's a bad patch, but it is going to get over. and we are going to get back to soon. Maybe there will be, the rules of the game will change, but game will be there. So
Yeah.
stay there, stay focused, and there is future for you guys.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi sir, for that deep insight. Coming back to Nasir Bhai. Nasir Bhai, your take on or your words for the travel professionals out there.
Completely. So again, for me, any kind of learning, any kind of studies, is never a bane. It has to be a boon. Any kind of learning that I do today, or any kind of learning that anyone else does today, is a complete boon for any individual. So again, I think both of them have really said it. It's basically, let's not look at short term. Whenever been taught this in MBA, when you look at short term, you're looking at a certain tactic, and tactics don't last you for a long time. Long term is your vision, right? So if you have your vision, if you have thought about doing this, obviously you've paid a good amount of fees, and unfortunately you're coming into a time when travel is at a standstill, to be very honest. uh, but again, it's a matter of 6 months to 8 months. Just also understand, apart from you, every other individual today in a travel fraternity is on level ground. We are all on level ground at the moment. We all are not traveling, we all are you know either learning, doing courses, doing something or the other to kind of learn and manage things. So understand one thing, we are all on level ground at the moment, and use this time, to be very honest, to be much more tech savvy. Tech savviness was not something that was known to be in a travel professional to that heavy levels. People were, people management, crisis management, uh, know about our destinations were the things that were, the main things that were taken into travel. But now tech savviness, you see a lot of bigger companies, who are coming up with online solutions and, uh, webinars and award nights on webinars and Zoom calls and things of that sort. So, kind of adapt yourselves or use this time or utilize this time by, not crying about the fact that there's no job in the market. Hone your skills, hone analytical skills, hone every possible skill of yours at this point of time. This time is never going to come back. This is a time for all of us to learn. Today, I've spent 10 years in the industry, I've seen a good part of the world, a good part of managing people and things of that, but also right now, I'm still a learner. I'm still learning, never stops. Learning never stops at all. So learn, go ahead. Uh, at the end of it, also one more thing is very important, which I think Anish and as well as Mr. Patil also mentioned, is the fact that new guys will come in. New guys won't come in for the fact that old guys have got, because they're on high salaries and things of that sort. Tomorrow, for my company, I'll be very honest, for my company, I take new guys because I need fresh ideas, I need new innovation, I need new value propositions which a new person can bring about at the end of it. And always it's a combination of the senior people and the new people that work wonders for any organization. So I will be seeing, obviously, a lot of the people, the new people right now getting frustrated. But guys, just hold on. Probably we are not on fourth gear or fifth gear right now, but a car moves in first gear or second gear also. So be there, stay there, and kind of hone your skills up completely in this juncture. It's very important. And understand one thing, learning never stops. Learning will happen again and again, again and again, again and again. So on that note, yes, travel and tourism management will always be a boon for anyone with the kind of holistic things that it brings about to anyone's individuality.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nasir sir, for that. And to all the young people, freshers who are connecting with me to understand, I hope you all have got your queries solved directly or indirectly with three gentlemen giving their insights. Please don't lose hope. That is the moral of the story. And now moving on to the fifth topic of our discussion, emergence of entrepreneurs in tourism. And I would like to take this up with the entrepreneur himself, Mr. Anish Pednekar.
Okay, so with travel, you will see a lot of hello. Nasir also is an entrepreneur, so
Of course, he
you
is.
see a lot of these young guys like us who will get into it. The simple reason is the confidence that we have got over the years, the, and a bit of street smartness and maybe common sense. That is all you need over here. The so entry barrier is quite low in our industry because we, frankly, at the end of the day, we don't own the airline, definitely not the hotel or the destination. But the way we package everything together as a solution uh, to a specific need of a corporate or individual is what makes us unique. Okay, and that's the crux of our industry. Once the industry bounces back, I would say it will be a good time to invest for any aspiring entrepreneur to get into this. And that's my personal opinion, because just like in stock market, when it's at the lowest, is when guys like Warren Buffett and all make their money. So right now, like Nasir said, it's a level playing field because we are all like in an expense race where we are stuck behind the safety car. There's an accident which has happened. Even if you are number one 2 laps ago or till yesterday, you are stuck with everybody else. So this pandemic has affected everybody equally, regardless of the size of the organization or how well how is the spread of your organization. Everybody has been affected equally. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But very important part is that you need to have a unique idea to get into anything, whether it's travel or any other sector. Uh, the simple reason is otherwise you'll be like everybody else selling commodities. Okay, that's the reason why most of the operators, tour operators, fly by the night operators fail after a year or two or whatever. That's because they don't have anything unique about them. It can be something to do with the operational practices, can be the way you sell, can be the way you want to operate, whether it's being aggressive in earning money or being balanced and having a long vision, like Nasir said once again. So it depends on you. Keep in mind, as per the Forbes report, roughly 80% of small businesses survive the first year. So that means 20% fail. About half of them don't even see the first 5 years. So they don't even survive after the first 5 years. Keep that in mind, because people are people get into starting a new business because they think they are good at it, or they're good at one particular thing. It can be operations, or can be sales, or it can be finance, or it can be people skills. But an entrepreneur has to be a balanced individual who has to take care of everything. He cannot be like a master of one and then ignore the rest at all. So that's not how it works. If that is the reason why you're getting into it, don't. Second point is that, and very important thing is that you need to have a plan as well, because once you start, you wouldn't be just responsible for your own self or your family. You'll be responsible for your team, which is very important. And if the recent 2019 has taught us anything, a bigger challenge for our industry was not COVID-19, it was mismanagement, which was of certain entrepreneurs whose heads were stuck somewhere else. So keep that in mind, because it's not just about you. But the good part is that you'll have abundance of talent to hire, like yourself. When I started my company 3 years back, uh, I had a tough time hiring my first batch of personnel, because frankly, people who were qualified to be an apprentice were rejecting my approach. So at least you wouldn't have that challenge with you guys.
Yep. Thank you very much, Anish bhai, for that information and insights on the entrepreneurship. Now, I would like to come back to Nasir bhai, one more entrepreneur with us today. So, Nasir ji, your take on the entrepreneurship and emergence of entrepreneurship in tourism.
Perfect. So entrepreneurship, obviously in tourism, entrepreneurship in general, to be very honest, you go on Google, you get 100 odd definitions for entrepreneurship. For me, entrepreneurship starts with only one thing: identifying a gap. If I feel that gap is something that I can, make it monetary, is why I get into entrepreneurship at the end of it. Obviously, having all those skills are normal parameters that each one of us have. But identifying the gap and opportunity and, grabbing that chance and making a difference is the main thing an entrepreneur does at the end of it. So currently, obviously, entrepreneurship in tourism started seeing a rise from quite a while. Obviously, there have been a spike in cases. You can see, whatever, fortunately, two of us, and I'm very sure in the panel, there are a lot more, many entrepreneurs who are actually there at the moment. For us, obviously, the good part about entrepreneurship is we got our foundation skills or foundation sets in really heavy or, top organizations, which were our alma maters and everything else, that basically gave, honed our skills to a different level altogether. Followed with, obviously, that gap that I spoke about, an opportunity which was there waiting. So the first company before starting ICOME, there was another company which we had started, which is obviously still operating. It's not like a start or something of that sort. Was more into the tech industry and things of that sort. It was to do with travel, but with tech at the end of it. It was probably too early. We started that off in the early 2017. Probably if right now I would have started that, I would have been minting money like no one else, because these Zooms and webinars and everything else, kind of are proof to that tech are the way to go in travel. We probably started it at a time where acceptance was a little low. We also knew about it. Okay, we were planning to bring about a change, So some of you will obviously know what company I'm speaking about. I don't want to publicize it unnecessarily on this channel and things of that sort, Sanket. But at that point of time, entrepreneurship will obviously come now. And there's no better time than this for budding entrepreneurs to come onto the scene or to burst onto the scene at the end of it. Again, any gap or opportunity that you see, hit it, nail it. It's not going to be tough at all. As Anish rightly said, there's no barriers to entry in any travel trade, or there are no threat to new entrants, to be very honest. Yes, there is competition. There's competition like no other. But there are ways, you have a good proposition, you could have a good value proposition, you have good operational processes, you have systematic operating procedures to anything. I think you are in a good place. And entrepreneurship at the end of it, also, again, I'm just repeating because Anish also is an entrepreneur, and he actually has said a few points which I also wanted to, cover up on, is you're not your own at the end of it. You have a team to manage. They are your family. They are probably your second family at the end of it. So be it in times like this, you need to support them. You need to be with them. And obviously, this is not going to end. I'm going to see a lot more entrepreneurs. I'm quite sure many of you all from this webinar, I don't know how many people are there, Sanket, probably 50, 60, 70 people. I see a good percentage of these people that are going to be eventually entrepreneurs. And that's how travel trade, kind of treats us and takes us where we are.
Absolutely. 100% by. So now moving on to Laxmikant sir for the topic emergence of entrepreneurs in tourism.
Anish and Nasir both being themselves entrepreneur, I think what they said makes more sense. But though I am not an entrepreneur as of now, I would still like to share my thoughts on this. So you can become entrepreneur by both models. Model one can be you have decided it's a planned move. You begin with your career with employment, and then but somewhere in the back of your mind you are very clear that you are going to start something on your own, and you kind of make this journey in a very structured manner. Obviously fine, that's how it should be. But let me also tell you, even there could be a people or a company or an organization which has started because the environment the external factors forced someone to do so, and even they have thrived. So there is nothing wrong if at all you're getting pushed to a wall and you start something, and why it should not click. I mean, there is no reason as to because it is not a planned move or whatever you cannot get success. It is obviously there are many stories, success stories, wherein people are compelled to do something and they have thrived in it. But what you need, I think you need a solid idea as to what you are going to do. You obviously need a lot of passion around. Third thing you need is a commitment to stick around, commitment to negotiate with challenges that you are going to encounter, and including the financial challenges, because that's going to be critical when you start your journey. And lastly, the patience. If you have all of these four, great ideas, or something, why you want to start on your own, you should have some idea: passion, commitment, and patience. If you have this, I am sure you will do good. And that's what I would like to share without having any practical experience of entrepreneurship. So that's it.
Thank you, thank you very much, Lakshmi sir, for that insight. And I'm sure that everyone out there today, the participants on this webinar, we got some really positive insights of the overall scenario of tourism 2.0. I would request everyone, if you have any queries or any questions to ask to the panelists, please post it on the group chat. I will take it individually, and it would be a good thing to share some ideas. If you have anything to ask, please put it on the group chat. Also, going forward, so this was the third episode of Tourism Talk and 15th overall, considering 12 of Destination Talks. I am planning one or two more in Tourism Talk, and then I will be coming back with Destination Talks. We are left with some important domestic destinations like Statue of Unity. Then we have Kerala. So those we need to discuss. In the past 12 tourism talks, 12 destination talks which I have done, 8 were domestic and 4 were international. So thank you very much for all your support and wishes that today we had 99 participants at one time during this webinar, which is really a good thing. So thank you very much for that. So we are up for questions. If anyone has any questions, please put it across on the group chat. Okay. Also, I see one question from Mr. Mitesh Solanki about the MICE scope. I think we have already discussed this on the MICE or distant reality. The scope of MICE. Nasir, if you want to answer that, just for Mr. Mitesh.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Why not? Always, happens. Yeah. Selective listening obviously happens at the end of it. So it's all cool answering these questions again and again. So scope of MICE was, Mitesh, yaar, sach bolu to yaar, it's going to take 12 months, to be very honest. To start off, if you take my perspective to it, you have two other guys sitting next to me right now, or probably on the panel right now, who probably have a different answer. But for me, it's not before 12 months for sure. On the international front, and around about 6 to 7 months, depending again on your clients. Scope of MICE will always be there. Believe me, I've always heard it from my seniors when I started off the industry. If you know MICE in travel, you know everything in travel. MICE, probably not because I'm a part of it or I run a company for a living basically on MICE. There is huge scope of MICE. Do not take this year as a validation for MICE. MICE has been there, it will be there, and will stay on. So if you are a person who is an ardent fan of MICE or probably an ardent follower of MICE, I suggest you stick on for this year. There will be opportunities galore. Believe me, there'll be opportunities galore for all of us to be in MICE, and just wait there, hold on. There will be scope for you, for sure.
Thank you, Nasir, for this. And okay, friends, so you all have received one confirmation email of this webinar and the link of this. By tonight, or say by tomorrow morning, you will receive one more email with the feedback link. So it's a humble request to all of you to please spare 2 minutes of your schedule and give us your valuable feedback. I'm getting one question in private. How about inbound travel? Do we see international tourist influx? Do we see international tourists coming into India? Sir, Laxmikant sir, if you can throw some light on this, how about inbound travel? Do we see international tourists coming to India?
Okay, so I think it is similar answer for what Nasir has given for Indian tourists to go abroad. For them also, they are going to leave their country and travel to India. So it is like an international journey for them. So I think the questions would be the same. I mean, the challenges would be the same. There would be they'll have to furnish their first of all, there has to be safety parameters. India should be announced as a COVID-free destination for them to travel, and the international countries, especially typically the European country or American country, they're extra cautious for their people, and obviously they will issue the travel advisories and things like that. So first of all, assuming that India becomes COVID-free destination whenever it becomes,
Yeah.
it will still take time for international tourists to kind of get out of it and make a travel plan to India. Also find that the damages what has happened in those respective countries are far more at present than what we have experienced here in India. So I think even that is going to be having a limiting factor for inbound tourists. So I think it will also take a while for inbound to India, and but probably the nearby countries can be a good maybe you leave aside your typical Europe and the America and things like that, but focus on the nearby countries, maybe the smaller countries like Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Middle East. I think these markets will open up early than your typical inbound countries.
I would like to add to this over here. Foreigners are particularly very fussy about cleanliness and hygiene aspects. So coming for them to come down over here, we really need to focus on our Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and really take it to the next level. As I mentioned, we need to have infrastructure in place for our domestic travelers first, and hoping that eventually the trickle down effect will be there, which would have foreigners come in. There's a lot of gossip going around about instead of going to China, people are gonna come to India, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's for tourism and all. I don't know any of that, but for sure, if government is gonna put a bit more effort into the infrastructure, it will make a huge difference for the inbound numbers as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Anish bhai. So one very interesting question coming up asked to me in private. After this new comeback, is it going to affect on pricing negatively? As a hotelier, would client gonna ask for redemption in rate, or it may be hike in pricing as hotels are going to have more expenditure on safety measures? So, Lakshmi sir, if you can, it's a domestic, means I think it is coming from a domestic hotelier actually.
Okay. I think first of all, you will have to make the sentiments right for people to travel, and you will have to incentivize their mindset to kind of come out of their houses and start exploring the services of hotels. So I think you have to, if you are a hotelier, I'm glad that and like to take this opportunity of saying that let's first bring cows home and we keep on milking the cows later on. So I request all the hotel partners, my otherwise also would be that okay, anyway we have suffered huge losses, and unless people make it think it appropriate, they are not going to travel. So at least let's pick up the one segment which is a deal seeker segment. There are people and we all know that they will jump if there is a very jaw dropping deal saying that you have something which is phenomenally makes you a kind of opportunity to be grabbed. In that case, these people who don't mind taking risks, they'll be the first people to get their photographs on their Instagrams and Facebooks, and slowly these are the people who are going to create the element of normalcy in sense. They'll be the ambassadors saying that, okay, I went to so and so place and my experiments was a phenomenal, and I also got a very great deal. So let's create that kind of environment for to begin with. But I agree that the challenges with respect to the hygiene element and the things like that will have some kind of pain. But let's cover it later. I think let's first keep keep the sentiments going, and then let's then come to see how we really make profit for our organizations.
Yeah, thank you very
much. Sanket, sorry, I wanted to add one more thing. Being from the hotel industry, at least from the hotel perspective, I can talk that there's a minimum cost of operation for any hotel. So hotel won't go below, keeping the competition set in mind, they won't go below certain ARR, average room rate. Okay. Having said that, they already, you guys may not know this, but the hygiene standards at least in a 5-star hotel are up to mark for this fighting this COVID-19 thing. There's something called as HACCP. There's a HACCP certification done for most of the hotels in India now, 5-star at least, which basically is for back of the house, which is to do with any guy who handles the food or anything to do with guests, something that guests consume, whether it's food or beverage, anything. So a hotel is already certified on those levels. When it comes to housekeeping, now I just had a word with my friend who's front office manager with Hilton. These guys are practically doing sanitation every 2 hours in public areas as well, which was one of the key contentions. So the additional cost of just doing, manpower and chemicals to go around instead of doing it twice a day, doing 4 times a day, I don't think it's going to be much, at least for hotels. So hotels won't have that much an impact. Keep in mind, post 26/11, the hotels like Grand at Mumbai and all were selling. Yes, it was way back in 2008, but they were selling 5,000 API rates or 5,000 CPI rates, which were unheard of, because before that, the average room rate was around 15,000 for the same hotel for the same time of the year. So immediate effect is going to be that the rates are going to drop, but it also depends on the competition set that we are in. Okay.
Absolutely.
Hopefully the end client, whether it's a FIT or corporate, also has the brains on his shoulders to know for a fact that hygiene comes at a cost, and we cannot go for the cheapest alternative like most corporates do. That L1 system won't work over here.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will be a new normal for all of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Anish bhai, for this. So now we will just take last 3 questions. One coming from Parmi. Parmi is asking, hello sir, I am a student pursuing in travel and tourism background last year. So we students are worried about our jobs, whether we'll get or not post COVID-19. Parmi, I would like to answer this on behalf of the panel. We discussed this. There are lots of opportunities gonna come up. Of course, we will not expect it to happen directly after the opening of lockdowns and all, but things will change for good and you will have good scope, not to worry. One coming in from Mr. Ratul. Nasirji, what's your thought about the business for the time of Diwali and New Year for the international destination? What's your opinion?
Right, cool. I was expecting something to come up, with regards to Diwali time, and because it's generally traditionally our holiday time that we, look keenly towards. Especially more than us, it's our families that basically look towards this time. So, to be very honest, Diwali and times of those sort, still early. But if I have to actually venture out, yes, international destinations, not very sure. But if I have to experiment, if you take my choice, probably a Sri Lanka or a Dubai or anything which is 2.5 hours to 3 hours flight around the place is what I would look at on a personal level. Though the damage is not less, the damage is the same if I take a 2.5 hour flight, or damage is the same if I take a 10-hour flight. But I would still go to places in the near vicinity, just in case if I have to return back or something of that sort, due to whatever emergencies. Those are the destinations I would look at. Though I would say definitely look at places which are domestic, definitely look at places which are in close vicinity. But if you are excited and want to venture out, obviously these places will be at the top of my list. Again, my perspective, my thinking. I'm quite sure everyone will have their difference of opinions, but this is what it is. Right, Ratul? If you need to know anything else, please, I'm more than happy to answer that.
Ratul, also keep in mind for international destinations, the airspace should be open and the destination should be open for travelers. But adding to that, we are completely neglecting the fact that some countries in the world, they are completely dependent on tourism. So these are the countries which will focus on the hygiene factor before anybody else. This will be the likes of Maldives, Dubai, UAE for that matter is doing a lot already, because the whole ball game is based on the high number of footfalls they get. So countries like those will open up first, which will be good for India because they are short haul destinations which are direct flights and all. So, and being the UAE, for a fact the infrastructure will be solid and the hygiene standards will be maintained, unlike any other countries. Maldives and a couple of other countries which are heavily dependent on tourism will open up before any other country in the world for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So now one last question coming in. Value for money will be a good factor for the tourism products considering health, hygiene, and safety. So how can we cut down on our prices and make it valuable product for your company for any destination? So I will like Laxmikant sir to please throw some light on this, sir.
I think it is a good question because uh, there is a increasing mentality of offering something value added product in our industry because it becomes slightly difficult to compare and things like that. So there is a tendency, be it FIT, be it MICE, we like to add so many elements into the package so that customer finds value in it. But I think for a time being, it is good idea to have a no frills product. You have lesser, you just have basic elements in it. That's the, I think, would be the way forward, because as it is, first of all, there would be budgetary challenges with the customer, and secondly, we expect the airfares to be expensive, and even the hotels, if they at all they have to maintain the hygiene norms, then even those prices are going to be go up slightly. So I think instead of value added holiday, if you can, as I said, make it a package in a holiday with offering a lot of flexibility in it. Because if you say that, okay, even if you cancel maybe 5 days before your travel, I ensure that there are lesser damages or no cancellations, depending on what sector it is and how much you are able to negotiate with your suppliers. I think offering more flexibility than more value would be mantra for a time being. You keep your values parked for some time and offer flexibility to your customers.
Lakshmi sir, I've got two more questions for you. One from Jayesh asking, looking at the current scenario, by when we expect the domestic travel to start as per the expertise point of view?
I would say, it is asking as if, by when I expect my lockdown to get over, or by when Mumbai is going to be. It is as difficult question to as that to answer. But let me tell you, once we have most of the primary markets, like I'm talking about the metro cities and tier 2 cities, if we start getting them COVID free, it is matter of not more than a week or 2 weeks to people get out and travel. Because as everybody spoken, Nasir himself saying that I am bored with seeing looking at those four walls of my room. So everybody will get, but it requires some kind of safety assurance, and when that we'll have, we are not health experts to comment on that, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And sir, one last question for the evening, then we do the final proceedings. Miss Sanchita Bagul, a student from Travel Professionals, she wants to ask you that I would like Laxmikant sir to answer my question, that will the companies consider the ones who started their internship to continue once everything gets normal?
I think it is the same answer what we have given to other students also. I mean, if obviously you would be given preference if you have done internship, obviously you have some understanding of the company, and company also has a basic understanding of you as an individual. So I think that's what I feel.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So all the three gentlemen, Mr. Laxmikant Patil sir, Mr. Nasir Merchant, and Mr. Anish Pednekar. First of all, thank you really very much, friends, for being here this evening and honoring the invitation and giving your invaluable insights on this. It was really awesome listening to all of you, and I'm sure all the participants here, they are going with some good takeaways from this session. Also, to all the participants, I would just like to request you all that please keep sharing the info and the details of the upcoming sessions with your friends, because this is something you can do during the lockdown, and something what else we can do during the lockdown. So that is one thing I would request. And today the participation was really super awesome. I'm really thankful to everyone who circulated the message, and thank you very much. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanket. Thank you for having us. Thanks.
Sanket, thanks,
Thank you.
Laxmikant. Thanks, Nasir.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Anish, for this wonderful piece of information. Thank you.
Completely. Likewise, sir. Take care.
and don't forget to salute me again, the next time.
All right, Mr. Lobo. Thank you.
Hey, bye guys. Bye guys. Thanks so much. Thanks, Sanket. Thanks a lot. Thanks so much. Very nice. Very informative. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris, sir. Dear participants, please stay safe, stay home, and let's pray that we all get back to our work as soon as possible and rock the world again. Thank you.